friends, and welcome. It is the 19th of November, and on today's podcast, we'll be covering the latest Neon Revolt blog. If you were unfamiliar with Neon Revolt, I suggest going to neonrevolt.com and checking out all of his articles. The guy is very intelligent. He brings up some great points, and also check out his Gab account, donate to him, show him some support. He's been part of this movement since the beginning, and I've covered him since the beginning of this movement, since the the creation of this channel. So definitely go back and check out all of his stuff. He's a very high quality person. But before we get into this article, if you would please go ahead and click that blue bell to get notifications, so when I do upload a video, you'll be the first to know. Also, follow me on Twitter at True Reporting, and if you wouldn't mind leaving a like for this video, the more likes that it receives, the more times it is recommended to other people, thus more eyes on the truth. So without further ado, let's hop into it. This is True Reporting. So we see here a Neon Revolt article entitled "Your Frustration is Their Torment. Mercenary Propagandist Will Fall. New Q, QAnon, Neon Revolt, Panic in DC, The Great Awakening, November 17th. So this is from 2 days ago. I'll be honest, he says, I wasn't sure how to begin this article. I went back and forth for a few days, wrote a few thousand words up, and then tossed it because somehow I wasn't getting to the heart of what I was trying to communicate. I think it's safe to say all Q Patriots have been experiencing a lot of frustration over the past week or so in the wake of the midterms and 11/11. It's beyond frustration actually. It's moved into the territory of despair as we watch those who hate us, who wish nothing but death and destruction upon our heads, seemingly succeeding across multiple domains simultaneously. Elections are being stolen. California is burning, and where's Q in all of this? I want to do something I don't usually do and start by asking my readers a few serious questions. No, we're not going to go over reasons for believing in Q again. I did that in the last article. So if you need to read something along those lines, go there and read that. No, I want you to know this. Do you understand that we are at war? The weight of that question falls upon many pretty keenly, considering we just went through Armistice Day, a time of remembrance for the end of World War I called the Great War. At the time, it was so savage and terrible the world thought there would never be another war to match it, let alone supersede it. To describe the battlefields of World War I as anything other than a human meat grinder is not to fully appreciate the depth of destruction that befell the continent of Europe. And so again, I ask you, do you understand that we, at this very moment, are at war? Do you believe that our enemies are real and want nothing for us than utter ruination? They'll stop at nothing to see our lives extinguished and our children enslaved? Do you believe that brave men and women have already sacrificed their lives in fighting what are perhaps the greatest enemies this nation and indeed the world has ever faced? Helicopter pilot killed in Buckinghamshire mid-air crash named as Captain Mike Green. Here's his picture right here. This is from Sky News. One of the 4 people killed after a mid-air collision between a plane and a helicopter has been named as Captain Mike Green. He was a senior instructor with more than 30 years of experience and a member of the helicopter service team based in Wycombe Airfield in Buckinghamshire. You know our enemies' capabilities, and what's more, you know, thanks to Q, their intention for us. You know what they have done, what they have, and how they have retained power. And now I ask you another question. Would you rather settle and live under their rule, or do you believe that we deserve a fighting chance? Something clicked in me these past few days. At first, I'll be honest, I was feeling a bit like everyone else, a bit down, a bit underwhelmed, a bit disappointed. And then I saw the behavior of our enemies. I saw article after article shot across the web by what I am now dubbing mercenary propagandists, berating QAnon and his followers, those pathetic rubes in flyover country gullible enough to buy into all these conspiratorial horse feathers. You know the type, quote unquote the type. I could almost hear them saying between the lines, barely able to keep their smug insinuation and sense of nearly unbridled self-satisfaction contained. Salon.com, a joke, had a particularly keen beef with Vote, citing literally some random nerd with little to no following and little to no screen presence named Mike Rothschild, who literally just repeats mainstream pablum, so boring, so trite, and so smug, of course, it's going to get recycled in some half-arsed blog for clickbait. Read now, pay later, no upfront registration for 1 hour. QAnon's true believers are devastated as the conspiracy theory goes down in flames. And on the subject of Mr. Rothschild, I'll say this much. I don't think the 90-pound dweeb is connected to the actual Rothschild family. He's just an unwatchable, gangly swarm machine with literally no other talents than getting attention for no other reason right now other than his repeating the things the media masters want people to hear. He's like some kind of authority on the subject. He's not. He'll go down in history as such. The point I'm trying to make is that he was shilling pretty hard against Vote and then taking one or two random shill posts, which literally any one of the 2+ billion people with internet connectivity in the world could have posted, and presenting them as representative of the whole community. While some QAnon believers, it says here, are melting away, others are taking to Vote to announce their intention to arm themselves and form citizen militias. Yes, it's likely all anonymous nonsense, but it takes one disaffected believer to cause considerable damage. Be aware, Mike Rothschild, about 4 days ago. Fear-mongering nonsense instantly transmuted into clickbait gold. Gold, I tell yous. But then I saw the announcement over on Vote by the site's administrator/owner. On the daily scale voting setting, he says, is the owner. The integrity of Vote is important to us all. Upon looking into manipulation on Vote, we discovered a massive hidden farm that was exploiting this setting, building up literally an army of accounts that can manipulate visibility of content via voting. Having a minimum setting of 1,000 meant that a brand new non-participating account can upvote 1,000 times per 24 hours, making the task of building a manipulation farm very easy. While nothing we do is impervious to manipulation, we have found over the years that small requirements make big differences. An example of this is the required 10 CCP for making a submission. This requirement literally solved 90% of our spam problem overnight. The unintended consequences of reverting this setting back to its original value of 10 votes per day for low CCP accounts is the vote/QRV subverse, as it is set to anon only. Anon submissions and comments do not earn the user CCP. Many participate only in the respectful comments and non-anon subverses in order to level up. Many will not like this, but considering two things, the setting was incorrect to begin with, and Vote's integrity is a concern for all. Here's the code, and it gives the code. In other words, if your account is 20 CCP or higher, you are permitted maximum of 100 votes per 24-hour window, or half of your CCP, which is ever highest. The conclusion is that Vote is no longer a startup website. Many depend on Vote now. We can no longer make policy decisions without communicating these changes in advance. As I've said before, Vote isn't mine, it's yours. And as such, policy decisions will be communicated in advance going forward. Now, everyone here knows the transition to Vote was anything but smooth. But transition, we did. This is from the Great Awakening on Reddit over to Vote. If you've been around for any length of time, you know how much heat I took for that, and the constant stream of downvotes that eventually came my way, effectively censoring and crippling my account there. And then one day, before this announcement, I logged in and all my negative account points were erased. Just gone, deleted from my account. I had to come to the conclusion that in order to try and stop my efforts there, my efforts to direct people to the right mod team, the right subverse, the cabal leveraged an entire botnet against me and against the larger community to disrupt and sow discord at every possible turn. I'll give them this. It worked for a bit, but in the end, we beat them at their own game. We broke their botnet. And I will say this. I encourage the folks who enjoyed and utilized the Reddit sub Great Awakening to hop on over to VQRV, because the quality of the content is really improving, especially at this botnet. Now that this botnet has been effectively wiped out, and more participation there is only going to make it better and better and better. So yeah, like he's saying, vote is clear. It's okay now that we can go there and we won't be downvoted, we won't be blocked, we won't be censored. Everything seems to be clear. But the larger point I'm trying to make here is that I spent enough time living in Obama land. I don't know about you, but I'm done playing by their rules and accepting their terms like they're somehow welcome at the table. They don't get to censor us anymore. They don't get to tell us how to think or how to speak or what to read or write. They don't get to shame us into conformity just because they're beholden to their favorite political idols and blinded by the near religious devotion to moronic progressive ideals. No, what grew in me today, and I think some of you may have observed it on Gab, but what grew in me today was a righteous anger. To see how these people scheme and manipulate, to see how they work every day to actively shame good, hardworking, honest people. Well, let's just say I'm adopting something of a take no prisoners approach with my writing from here on out. I really hope he does, because he's a genius. And again, because these people are so dishonest, they'll take anything out of context to distort it into a call for violence or extreme rhetoric. I disavow all violence and violent acts. I disavow. So you can't go against them there, right? They can manipulate what he's saying. Oh, but I will gladly take every single last one of the dishonest, mercenary propagandists to task for the harm they are inflicting on this nation, and I will personally make sure the nation never forgets until, 1, they all post deep, heartfelt apologies recanting their former deceit, and 2, delete their Twitter, Gab, Mastodon, Instagram accounts. Those are my terms, and I'm letting them know this up front because they are going to have to conform to them. Why? Because I won't be the only one who's angry. I'm just the herald of that righteous anger that will all experience when the entire world learns the truth. They will never live this down until they recant, apologize, and delete. I'm so glad to see other Anons starting to feel the same way. Yeah, they've started a fire. They've jumbled up the hornet's nest. They've poked the hornet's nest, and now it's time for payback, right? I believe we're winning. I believe we have leverage at this point. I'm so glad to see other Anons, he says, starting to feel the same way, starting to really feel the same righteous anger bubbling up inside of them. I'm reposting something Anon wrote the other day on the research boards here because it really gets to the heart of things. We, Q and Anons, are their cruel and unusual punishment. Love it. I am regularly and repeatedly frustrated and discouraged when the plan doesn't proceed according to my understanding and expectations. I occasionally lose faith in the entire operation, and I find myself embarrassed for predictions and explanations I have offered to friends and family. It can make me incredibly depressed at times as I start to question everything I think I know about the world. Have I been had? Am I being manipulated? Am I more susceptible to brainwashing than I believed I was? What nefarious ulterior motive am I assisting? Have I wasted a very good chunk of the past year of my life? I always come back to this board, however. I come back not because I have faith, but because I have seen too much for any other explanation besides the explanation offered on this board to make sense. I am the exact same way. Clearly, there are gaps in our understanding that said we have the biggest, clearest picture a semi-layman will find anywhere on earth. So why am I venting my feelings? Because I know that I have them too. We live in a country where cruel and unusual punishment is outlawed, thankfully. But we all know that death and eternal humiliation are far too comfortable of an end for the truly evil people that have been running this country/world. So let's torture them a bit. Oh wait, we can't. Not in the traditional sense, at least. I believe that this whole operation is certainly about taking them down. Evidence is being gathered for their past crimes, and as many Anons have speculated, perhaps new crimes are required due to the secret pardoning by Obama upon his leaving office. But I believe that Q and Anons are playing another vital role in the operation as well. We are their cruel and unusual punishment. When Q says panic in DC, we aren't just talking about, oh darn, things aren't going to plan for these people. We're talking about sheer unfathomable terror on their part. This terror that is experiencing isn't quite on par with the terror that they've instilled in their victims, but it is the next big thing. These people know what is coming for them, and we play an important part in reminding them. We send them memes constantly, and we chant at rallies. They know we are waking the public up. It is absolutely terrifying for them. POTUS does a great job of taunting them on a daily as well. I know most of you have seen how Obama has grayed in his hair over the last couple of years. You've seen him bumbling and stammering like a pathetic madman at rallies during the midterms. This is his cruel and unusual punishment. So the next time you feel disappointed or let down that things haven't gone as you expected with regards to the plan, take solace in the fact that they've just got a small glimmer of hope in their hearts, only to be cruelly ripped away from them again. Your frustration is their torment. In this case, justice is a process, not an event. Their punishment is being implemented right this very moment. They will be imprisoned. They will be executed. They will be humiliated for all of eternity, and you will be vindicated. In the meantime, enjoy this moment as much as they are hating it. You deserve to enjoy their punishment. After all, they have done what they have done to our society, so start enjoying it. Enjoy your moments of frustration and second guessing. Enjoy the embarrassment you feel when your prediction to family and friends don't pan out. Enjoy the rage you feel when you see known criminals smiling on TV. Still, enjoy it, because this, my friends, is their cruel and unusual punishment. So, I completely agree with this. If we bask in their stressed out looking faces and their gray heads of hair, we are winning, everybody. Just stay positive. Have faith in God. Have faith in each other. Like I always say, be kind and love one another, and love conquers all, right? So this brings me to my last question. Do you believe we can? The mercenary propagandists certainly do not want you to believe that. Why they'd rather have you believe pretty much anything other than that. And like the anonymous shills you've encountered on the boards and vote, they all have their favorite tactics. Yep, they break out old reliable whenever they feel the urge to score a few points. They take Rat Tail Travis, who I've sent redubbed Tapped Water Travis. Switching back to the old name because I like it better. Favorite go-to tactic, he likes to talk on the board all about QAnon's failed predictions without really ever mentioning what they are, outside of there being a lot of them. Here's a sampling from his Twitter profile. Travis View right here. QAnon people run the who care play on me. Q guy. Q is revealing the truth that the MSM won't report. Me. Actually, Q is a mess of failed predictions and vague nonsense. Q guy. Laugh out loud. Why do you even care so much? Jennifer Epstein. Trump's initial response to a question about Warren's DNA test results, something he talked about wanting to do, was who cares? Yeah, so it seems like the prediction failed. It just means your interpretation of the prediction wasn't convoluted enough. Yeah, so basically this guy is just a complete troll. I often turn to the case studies linked above because I suspect it provides insight into the next evolution of QAnon. That is, eventually Q people will accept that their predictions are bunk, but they'll stick around anyway for the sake of the community and the mission. I don't think that's entirely true at all, really. Yeah, so we see some people who follow QAnon seem to forget the thing he, she, they repeat on a regular basis. Disinfo is necessary. At no time were people told to soak up every word like sponges. Absolutely, man, that makes it a cult. I could show you a bunch of other posts along these lines, and really it's nothing you haven't heard rehashed a million times from deep within the bowels of the internet armchair, skeptic, atheist, neckbeard, community before. Stick a banana in it and you would probably have a true tube ready video. Anyway, Tapwater Travis wouldn't have a leg to stand on if his premises weren't so immediately idiotic. In it, he assumes a couple things about Q's efforts that are just flat out wrong. What are these premises? That there's no possible way Q could be true, therefore it's just an elaborate LARP. They say this despite the well-known fact. Guys, listen, this is good to show your friends and normies. So, number one, there is no possible way Q could be true, therefore it's just an elaborate LARP. They say this despite the well-known fact that Trump has operated on the Chans for a very long time, and the Chans being a home for Trump support online. Is it that far of a stretch to think that Millant would harness the power of this community? But this is more to write about these journalists' inherent bias than anything else, because no one has done anything like this before. They assume that there's no way it could be done by Trump, because he's so kind to behold to these norms of behavior. He totally fits the mold out of which every president before him has been cast. Yeah, right, the sarcasm is bleeding through. Number two, that Q is trying to predict the future, like some kind of Zoltar cabinet at the county fair. This is ridiculous. Q never claimed to be able to make exact predictions, especially on the citizens' timetables. Oh, sure, there's a lot of expectation and hope in the community that such and such would happen by X date, but that kind of prediction rarely comes from Q himself. Q is a military operation responding to real threats in real time worldwide. Any predictions made need to be understood within that context of action, response, action, response. So, for instance, one thing these anti-Q-aided folks like to harp on is Q's failed Kavanaugh vote confirmation prediction of 53 to 47, when in reality it came in at 51-49. Forget the fact that, yes, Kavanaugh was in fact approved by the Senate at the time when it was unclear whether or not he would be. It was just because Q was off by 2 votes that shows he's just a LARP with no credibility whatsoever. This belief is predicted upon another assumption these anti-Q-aided types make. Q is just talking to regular Americans. If Q is real, doesn't it make sense that every single evil force in the world that Q is struggling against would be following his every word? If I were the likes of the Diffage spy, I'd be sitting up late at night, glued to my monitor, weak and teary-eyed from all the exhausting emotions and dread I'd be experiencing. Oh wait, Dianne Feinstein tears. Moreover, if I were one of the evil actors, I'd be fighting Q tooth and claw every step of the way, while I still could, using every dirty trick in the book I could, like lies, blackmail, and intimidation. Whoa, here we are. The truth, however, is not as simple as this. Context matters. We see here, this is the senator from Alaska, Dianne Feinstein, and exactly what is she using on her? Like lies, blackmail, and intimidation, cowering over her like this. Unbelievable. The truth, however, is not as simple as this. Context matters. Understanding context matters. The context of QAnon's posts aren't always immediately evident to us, the average American citizen, and that's consistent with what we would expect if someone at a high level of government intelligence, someone aware of the lives at stake and aware of evil people listening in, was trying to communicate publicly with the average citizen. Anyway, since Travis likes to go on and on about failed predictions, I figured we would take a look into today at one of his failed predictions. I found this interview Tapwater Travis gave to this irrelevant wannabe NPR-style podcast, Soros Rent Boy, Jared Holt. More on that in a bit about what else QAnon. So if you want to go in and check that out, you can. And in it, Travis makes a bold prediction. See, he likes to go on and on about Q's failed predictions. So let's talk about one of Travis's today. At 43:08, interviewer, have you seen anything else that sort of clues us into the sort of Fenicism? I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Because my impression is that QAnon has made these various predictions of things that would happen on specific dates that didn't come through. They were very hyped about the military parade, which is on delay at the moment, thanks to DC. To the DC government. I feel like this is a sort of pushing people to extremes. Have you seen any other examples of the sort of extremes that people who are following this conspiracy theory and oftentimes dedicated hours of their day to? Travis, yeah. Interviewer, to quote and unquote, researching the tenacity of these claims have pushed themselves to? Yeah, I mean, this is what Travis says. Yeah, I mean that's sort of the other concerning thing, is that they may not explicitly say that they're willing to die, but they sometimes talk about like the massive investment and sacrifice they're making into this insane conspiracy theory. In the sense of the number of hours they spend talking about it, they'll talk about how they go late into the night doing decodes or researching or whatever they call digs, which is, a deep dive into a particular subject, and and you look at the aora, it sometimes even hurts relationships. People talk about how it hurts their relationship with their spouse or their family, and how it would make them a little bit more isolated, and that's also kind of dangerous, because when these people who are really super into Q are already pretty isolated, and when they get even more isolated to the extent of the Q community is all they have, then that's kind of concerning. Interviewer: so what do you see for the future of this? What is the future of this? Travis says, this is really, the parallel I make is with Pizzagate, and from the sense that I wrote an article for ARC Digital Media, and it sort of talks about how this is just like a carb. This is just a copy of Pizzagate, but like bigger, and everything's more elaborate. And if there was going to be some sort of assume that that's what happened with Pizzagate is also going to happen with QAnon. See, that's so stupid, because we know Pizzagate was definitely real. It still is real. It's still going on right now. Because what happened with Pizzagate, the most bonker stuff, which is like spirit cooking allegations that Hillary Clinton and John Podesta were, devil worshippers, and they participated in satanic rituals, those popped up 4 days before the 2016 election. I'm not saying I don't know if this is, I'm going to say that what happened with Pizzagate is also going to happen with QAnon. Then we can sort of assume that the craziest, most bizarre claims are yet to come. So what actually happened with Q's post during that time? He told us that, we're talking now with Neon Revolt is speaking. He told us he wasn't in violation of the Hatch Act. The Democrats had a volatile history of racism, that Democratic voter fraud largely relied on the illegal immigration he linked to a bunch of people donning Q gear. He told everyone to vote and meme, and he said that there would probably be a bunch of angry anti-fascists mobilizing soon, which they did when they doxed a bunch of conservative pundits and swarmed Tucker Carlson's house. We all heard about that. Amazing how that somehow doesn't count as successful Q predictions in Travis' fluoridated brain. Why, it barely garners nearly a mention on his timeline, but I wonder how Travis feels about his prediction now in light of this tweet he made over a year ago. Know how physics work their scam? Marks want to believe someone can see the future, so the marks overemphasize hits and gloss over misses. Chris Well predicts. Gonna gloss over your own big miss here now, Travis, or maybe somehow when you do it, it doesn't count. By the way, I like how you completely avoided the massive Q confirmation today. Surely you're aware of it, Travis. You spend so much time on the boards immersed in Q world after all. You couldn't have missed it. But seriously, folks, do you see the pattern here? Not only does Travis not have to hold himself to the standard he deems necessary for others, hypocrisy, but he gets to inject fear into the narrative for months, and he never gets to be held accountable for it. In fact, nothing even remotely resembling Travis Bold's prediction took place, yet he felt justified spouting off at the time and gets tapped by the likes of Bezos Rag to bloviate about how dangerous people who believe in unfounded ideas are. That's because the truth has no bearing on what these people do. They have no interest whatsoever in pursuing the truth. The Q movement is, at its most basic, fundamental, a research movement, and has any one of these clowns ever even bothered to try and accurately represent that? No. They distort facts and inject fear and terrorize the average American with disinfo, because that's what they're paid to do. And the thing is, folks, you can't actually expect these mercenary propagandists to give up, not as long as the rent checks keep coming in and they're willing to suppress their conscience. Why, they're even branching out with their efforts. So, well, now, isn't that interesting? A whole podcast dedicated to debunking QAnon. Oh, yeah, so the QAnon Anonymous Comedy Politics History Podcast. Pretty pathetic. I'm sure we can expect this to be a total, honest, and critical look at the QAnon phenomenon, right? Well, let's take a look at those names Tapwater Travis mentioned. Jared Holt. Jared Holt is our Soros rent boy, the one who interviewed Travis in the other podcast linked earlier in the article. He also works for Right Wing Watch. Right Wing Watch is owned by People for the American Way, which is 501c4 lobbying group, which means it doesn't have to disclose his donors. Yeah, so they're paid off too. However, People for the American Way is heavily funded by George Soros' Open Society, which has poured millions into the group since its founding. Holt's salary literally comes directly from Soros' pool of money. Will Sommer right there. You'll recall that Will Sommer manufactured this distorted screen a few months ago. Screed. Yeah. QAnon, the crazy pro-Trump conspiracy, melts down over OIG report. And as it says in this profile, he writes for the Daily Beast. Just yesterday, he produced this mess. Conspiracies blame California fires on airborne laser guns. And like the 90-pound dweeb before him, Sommer dishonestly takes one random post online, claims it's representative of the larger community, and uses it as a means to discredit the entire movement. Really? Well, anyone who doesn't lobotomize across 4 intersecting planes, the DEW, direct energy weapons, posts have been shill slides. Heck, even you guys quoted that he was just memeing. A fact you quickly mentioned in one line at the very end of the article after presenting the whole thing as though he was being serious. Yeah, Will is a grade AA hole. Just take a moment to pursue his curriculum vitae. Beyond that, it should come as no surprise to anyone here that the Daily Beast is owned by IAC and that Chelsea Clinton sits on the board of IAC. So all these people are just bums, right? They're all just paid off people. God, I swear I have more testosterone flowing through my veins than all 5 of these mercenary propagandists put together. Look at what a bunch of weak little liars we have here. They deserve a name, I think. How about the mild bunch? And all that's to say is that these are the soy sapiens they're sending after you in order to terrorize, demonize, and demoralize you. These are the laughingstock astronauts who they're sending to intellectually intimidate you. It's laughable. It's utterly laughable. It's an utterly laughable tactic. But the only way it ends is if you stand up and call out their hypocrisy and their lies and distortions. Remember the righteous anger I was talking about? Yeah, get yourself some. Then channel directly and focus it. Why am I still the only major pro-QAnon guy calling these reprehensible con artists out is beyond me. It's time for you all to step up. And yeah, I'm including the other big pro-Q names out there. Whatever medium you work in, be it text or forums, through video or podcast, it's time to start speaking out about these deceivers. I agree. It's not enough to just stick with trying to decipher Q and hoping the military and Trump will just magically solve everything. It's time to start going on the offense in the war of ideas. It's time to start calling out the hypocrisy and double standards on social media. These jackbooted crackerjacks think they enjoy a nice little bubble on social media and especially on Twitter. Pop that bubble and disabuse them of any and all illusions. Hold them to a standard. Use their own words against them because they certainly aren't going to hold themselves to any standard. No tactic is too low for them. They are not the majority. They never were. And when this is all over, they will bend the knee, or they'll never be able to find dignified work ever again because everyone in the country will know of their stupidity and their treachery. So to answer my earlier question, do you believe we can win? Oh, my friends, I believe we can do so much more than win. I believe we are already winning, and we will send anyone who attempts to oppose us running for the hills with the tail tucked between their legs. Whew. Can you believe all that was just the wind-up? I've still got the new Q post from earlier this week, and to do that, I have to go back to the 11/11, the day of the great anticipation. And with that being said, we will do a part 2. I believe that he has doxed these people. He was shown these people who they are paid for. They're funded by George Soros and Chelsea Clinton. So before we go into the next half of this, would you please, if you enjoyed it and you found it informative, please leave a like. Please subscribe to my channel. And also follow me on Twitter. And if you would care to donate, you can go to my PayPal or my Patreon in the description box below and leave $1, whatever you want to. I do my best with you guys. It's good to be back. I know this is a little lengthy, but I believe the second half of this is going to blow your mind, guys. This guy is going to decode a lot of stuff. There's a lot of information that you can share with your friends, okay? So with that being said, I will talk to you very soon. Expect a part 2 later in the day. Bye.